everybody, and welcome back to Taboo Talk with Sarah, the space where we break the silence, foster hope, and dive into the conversations we don't have often enough, but we really should be having. Today, I'm doing something a little special. I get to sit down with someone who's not only an incredible leader, mentor, and speaker, but someone very dear to my heart who I am privileged to call friend. Celine Egan isn't just a powerhouse in the personal development and wellness world. She's someone whose presence makes people feel truly seen, heard, and understood. She's been instrumental in transforming lives, including my husband Jeff's, playing a beautiful role in his faith journey. Her spirituality, empathy, and deep sense of purpose shine through in everything that she does. And today we get to go behind the titles, the accolades, the leadership podiums, and see into the woman behind it all.
Wow.
I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a beautiful introduction. I think that's one of the nicest introductions I've ever had. So that's just gorgeous. That's absolutely gorgeous. So thank you so much. I feel really honored. I feel really honored to be here. I mean, I've known you guys now for
11 years.
It's 11 years. Oh my God. Oh my goodness me. There we go. That's pretty amazing. That is awesome. I love it. So yes, I've watched your boys grow up, and we've ridden the roller coaster of life, faith, journey, business, all of those things together over that time. So honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your podcast.
Thank you for coming, because we're going to have lots of fun. We always do when we get together. So
absolutely.
So you've worn lots and lots of hats in your journey, and do lots of interesting things. But what is it that keeps that fire burning, that keeps you showing up how you show up? And what fun things have you got coming up?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I'm going to take that in two parts. So the first part of it is what keeps me showing up. And I think it's because I did a lot of work early on about really finding my purpose. And, what was that about? Why did God have me here? Like, I mean, what was it? What did that actually look like? And so, for me, my purpose is to inspire people to live a life on purpose for a purpose. And so I look at that in then everything that I get to be able to do. And so it was very much early on. It was when I was trying to find, where does God want me? Where am I sitting in all of this and all the rest kind of thing? I thought, okay, I'm not going to be the traditional, member where, maybe I help with the hospitality, or I do this or I do that. I really wanted to make a difference. I really wanted to dig in, and all of those roles are super, super important. And I tried them all, but I realized that they weren't innately me. And so what I realized was I was blessed with certain gifts, and, that was primarily around business. And, building business and helping other people to build business and inspiring those. And so what I really became quite clear on was that my purpose was to really help people to be able to show up in their authentic self, to be able to live a life on purpose for a purpose, so that they got to be able to do that. And so for me, it was about, I look at my business, I look at what I do. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and a medical professional, they'd asked a whole heap of questions, and on there was, what are your hobbies? And she said, I was really surprised that you put down that, what you do, your work and your business is your hobby. And I said, it's because I absolutely am blessed to love what I do, because of the impact I know that it can make for people. And so my business is not only my passion, it's not only my purpose, but it's my ministry. And so that's what keeps me on fire and lit up, still 42 years down the road in this profession. And in this particular, with the Beautiful Juice Plus company for now, 2009. So it's been a while. Yeah, so that was the first half of that, actually. I just realized it went on a tangent.
No, that's okay.
I know. What have I got that's exciting at the moment? I mean, I've got so much that's exciting. I do. It was really interesting though. This year, I really felt God saying to me, "Keep the one thing, the main thing, the main thing," and that. So I am super focused on how we can continue to build through our business and impact people both from a health perspective, a wealth perspective, and a faith perspective. And it's actually been really interesting because I've been able to manage to kind of align all of those things in this one vehicle. But of course, I also love where it is that I can add value. So coming on things like, your podcast here today. I'm on a training with the LA Tribune with Jeff next month, I believe. I think that is in May.
Yes.
And that too. So where I can show up to be able to add value, if there's anything that I can add from my wisdom, not just as a business mom, but a business woman, but I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother now as well. And I think that as we age, I just turned 60 as well. So as we age, there's a level of wisdom that I know has definitely come, and I think as a society, as a Western society, I actually don't know that we value enough. You know, that's a whole other topic, but which we may even get into. But
Yep.
I feel like that there is probably something in that too.
Yes. We don't always value that wisdom that's gained over years and of enduring through those hard times. So we often glamorize those mountaintop moments,
Yeah,
that success and the whole overnight success that all of us know is anything but overnight. But that
yeah.
thing that we forget about is that in between time and those seasons where there's doubt, there's grief, there's change, there's reinvention.
There's the
And those
face
moments
down
where,
moments. Like,
yeah,
I had one earlier this week. I had a face down moment and I was kind
yeah,
of going, gosh, what is this about? And of course, having a really good, I'm so blessed, I suppose, that the study I've done over the years gives me a lot of tools. And, people say to me, oh, why do you study? Why do you keep learning and all the rest kind of thing? I said, because I love the tools to be able to help because we never have arrived. I don't believe that we will have arrived till we're at home, in heaven with Jesus kind of thing. Now, when I get there, I'm going to have a few conversations about that because my goodness, there have been definitely some valleys, and that, but in that, in that moment kind of thing, in that face down moment, you're right. Like, I mean, people look at the high points and people will often say to me, oh my gosh, I'd love to do what you do. And, I'll sometimes say to people, would you? Would you be prepared to actually, because all you're seeing is a highlight reel, maybe. I mean, I'm quite
mm,
authentic in how I show
yeah,
up and how I talk to people, but at the same time, too, for the most part, what we are seeing on social media and people's stories and in lives, and even for the most part, people say to how are you going? Oh, yeah, great, fantastic, kind of thing, and you literally have been on the floor in a fetal position crying, or whatever it might be, just because life has happened. That's it, just
yes,
life has happened. And we've made something of it kind of thing. And, I love one of my coaches and mentors talks a lot around, little circle, big circle. Little circle is what's happened and big circle is the story we make up about it. And so, in that face down moment the other day, I had that moment of going, okay, well, what's actually the facts in this story? And now what am I making up about it? And actually, is it true? But people don't get to always see those things. So I think the wisdom of aging just means that we've gone through those highs and lows more often. And so we've actually learned resilience. We've learned that it's actually about getting up, dusting yourself off, and that everything is cyclical. And I love if we think about how, it was really quite clever. We think about how God made the world kind of thing. You've got summer, which is all the high points. It's it's
yeah,
fantastic. Life is fantastic. The sun is shining and all the rest kind of thing. And, but what comes after summer? Well, autumn, a time of being able to purge and whatever like that. Winter, which, a lot of people kind of go, oh, but I don't want to do winter. But then out of winter becomes spring, and out of spring comes summer. It's life is a
it's all in
duality.
cycles.
It's
Mm,
a duality. We can't have happy without sad because we wouldn't know
no,
what it was. We can't
exactly.
have light without dark because we wouldn't know what it was. It's all about the duality. And so I oftentimes
Mm,
will coach people and talk people about whether it's in business or whether it's personal. The reality is There is no such thing as perfection. Okay, there is no such thing as everything being all rosy all of the time. What there is, though, is commitment. There is commitment to actually, and I love one of my other mentors, early on in my career, talked to me about doing an ACE checkup every month on my business and life. And I'm kind of going, oh, ACE, okay, what's that? ACE up my card? No. So ACE stands for attitude, commitment, effort.
Ooh, I
What
like
is my
that.
attitude? It is. It's a great little one, and I've remembered it, and that's like, probably 30, 40 years nearly. But it is. And I do it regularly with myself as well, especially if I'm kind of in a bit of a funk and I kind of go, okay, well, what's my attitude around this? Yes, this could be all happening around me, but what's my attitude around this? So doing that check-in and I'm going, okay, do I have an attitude of gratitude? Because no matter what's going on, there is always something to be grateful for. We woke up this morning. I'm pretty grateful
That's
for
a big
that.
one.
There's,
Yeah.
a lot of people that did not. Okay. I am healthy. I am grateful for that. I have got amazing children and chosen children with my beautiful, two daughter-in-laws and son-in-law. I think I am grateful for that. I am blessed that we have an angel in heaven, Neve, our first grandchild, who looks down on top of us, and then who's continuously sending us boys because I've got 4 amazing grandsons. I'm grateful for that. And we've got another one as we speak. We've got another one that's actually cooking as well. So I'm grateful
Hey.
for that. So no matter what, no matter how kind of, challenging something might be, when you take a moment to go, okay, just what are 3 or 4 things I can be grateful for in this moment? In this moment, it will shift your perspective straight away. The second thing is commitment, because we can have goals and dreams and all the rest kind of thing, but are we truly committed to it? Or are we going to do it when it's convenient? It's the 2 C's. We can either be committed and we're showing up no matter what, we're honoring our word, or we can do it when it's convenient. And they're 2 very, very different things. And then E is effort. Are we prepared to put our overalls on and actually go to work? Or are we just going to go a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there kind of thing? Or, I use it a lot in this industry, in this beautiful profession of ours. Are we constantly going to be trying to ride 2 horses? Because we've got one butt. And, if you think about the analogy of that, of you trying to ride 2 horses, you're not riding either of them well, and it could end up disastrous as
Yep.
you fall on your back. And so I really, I really think that in the world where we have so many distractions that we want to go, oh my, that's the next best thing. I'm going to do that. Oh, no, hang on. No, I'm going to do that because that's the next.
Yep.
No, where
Bright,
is
shiny objects.
absolutely BSOs. Where is our ACE checkup in that? Where is our attitude, our commitment, and our effort? And that how are we going to commit to making, the one thing, and all of that. So no matter what that is, that could be around, your relationship. What's my attitude around my relationship kind of thing? Yeah, you can have a bad day and you can have an argument or whatever like that. But what's my attitude? Is it just a moment in time, or am I going to make it something bigger than that? Like, am I going to make it, oh my gosh, where that's it, finished, it's done or whatever. What's
Throw
my
the baby out
commitment?
with the bathwater.
Exactly. What's my commitment in here? People say, oftentimes will say, oh, relationships are 50-50. No, they're not. They're 100-100. Are you bringing 100% of yourself? And then are you prepared to put the effort in? So ACE checkup can be used in any of those things. And I've got so many of those tools that I've learned over the years that really do hold me in good stead to be able to navigate life, business, whatever.
To handle whatever gets thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned your beautiful granddaughter, your
Yes.
beautiful angel baby granddaughter.
Yeah.
So we've both seen loss and grief and how that experience shapes us.
Yes.
Now, I know that you've held space for others during some of their darkest times, and you've been through some pretty dark ones yourself. So, how does that journey with it,
Mm.
what's that taught you about love and leadership and faith? And you've mentioned a few tools that you've been grateful that you've had in the toolkit.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think so when you go through those challenges and Neve for the time that she was in our life taught us so much, and I'm so, so grateful for her. And uh, it's, you know, it's one of those journeys that you don't ever wish on people, but you know, the saying where everything does happen for a reason is hard to hear, but it's actually so true. Because when I look at the journey of Neve, you know, she brought us even closer, if it was possible, as a family, because we
And
united.
looking at your family, I wouldn't have thought that it was, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I feel so blessed because we, you know, we've worked hard on that over the years, but it just solidified even more because, you know, watching my sons come around their sister, and you know, my daughter-in-laws and that, you know, and them all come around their brother-in-law and all the rest kind of thing in those times and those discussions, but also how we've continued to honor like Neve is an integral part of our family and that as well. But going through that journey, it was definitely, you know, one of the hardest times because as a mother, my heart was breaking for my baby. You know, that was the thing. Like, I cried out to God, going, how do I help her? Like, what is it that I do? You know, how do I stand in this gap right now? Because it was hard. It was a hard. There were hard decisions to be made, and it was such a hard journey, and it was challenging because it challenged some of, you know, what I believed in, and I believe in miracles. I believe in all those things, and sometimes when we don't see what we expect to happen, not happen, kind of thing, that, you know, we can kind of, you know, go into a whole blame scenario. But a couple of things I really learned through there was one, and this is not a judgment on anybody who's listening here, but I don't know how people walk some of those journeys without a faith. You know, for what we know, what we really truly believe is that Neve is in heaven and that we will get to see her again. And that I'm so excited about. In fact, it's funny, on my walk this morning, it pops up because it's the 4th of the month. She was born on the 4th of December. And on the 4th of the month, I have a little thing that pops up, Neve, just Neve, every month. So she's in my mind or thoughts oftentimes. But on the 4th of the month, I have a little pop up. So I was having a granddaughter chat with her this morning as I was walking along. And, you know, I lost my first baby. And so, you know, you know, I said to her, you know, I hope you're having fun with Alex. Can't wait to kind of get up. I mean, and I'm saying to her now, I really do hope that you're actually sending us another little girl because we've got all these boys now, you know, and it can't be just about you, you know. So I have these conversations with her, you know, as we go. So because I truly, truly believe, and this is not everybody's belief, and that's totally okay. But I truly believe that, you know what, I'm going to walk through the pearly gates of heaven and she's going to be there, you know, with us, you know, and I truly believe that. So from that perspective, it did teach me a lot. And I had some really profound conversations with God through that time. So it's something that for some, or maybe seen from the outside, that it would weaken my faith because that journey didn't go quite through. It actually took it to a whole other level, which I didn't actually think was possible. It took the love in our family, I think, to a whole other level, which again, I didn't think that it was possible. And that. But the other thing too was that it showed me and reminded me of the importance of having the right people around you. And that inner circle, that core group of people that walk with you through some of the hardest times with no judgment, that are
There's the
just
big one.
there because they love you. They may not always agree with everything, you know, we're all kind of thing, you know. I had a conversation with Jeff not that long ago, kind of thing, where there's some parts of kind of going, you know what, just be mindful of this or be mindful of that kind of thing, you know what?
Yeah.
And it's kind of going, but there's no judgment because at the end of the day, he's big enough to make his own decisions.
Yeah.
But that there is a trust there that you can have those kind of conversations and know that the conversations are being had because people genuinely care. And so what I found in that journey were the people who understood. They just were there because they wanted to love on us, our family, and be present and be around. And so that peer group, we hear it often enough, but I cannot stress enough to people who are listening and watching this, that in business, in life, it is vital. Jim Rohn, and many speakers say, you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And it is so true. Who is the peer group? Who are the people that you are surrounding yourself with? Who are you listening to? What are you putting into your mind? What are you watching? What are you reading? Who are you following on social media? If they are not adding to your life, if they're not bringing value, remove it, kind of thing. Now, some people say to me, well, what if it's my family? Okay, I know you can't remove your family. But you can choose, though. You can choose what you allow to come into your psyche. So you may need to be physically present, and that's okay. We love everybody unconditionally. But just because we love everybody unconditionally does not mean that they need to be in our sphere of influence all of the time. And so that journey taught me so many things, but it also reminded me of the value of having the right people in my peer group.
Of making sure that the advice that you're listening to is actually stuff that you want to be listening to, that it's going to take you where you need to be, and not stuff that's going to pull you off track. Because sometimes
it's not their agenda, like that. It's not that, because I don't know, like, I mean, especially with social media, the advent of social media and whatnot, there's always the next best thing. And so, people can be talking to you or having conversations with you about something, but you can feel there's another agenda behind it, like it and that. And so who are the people that you listen to? There is no agenda. The only agenda is to be able to hold space for you in that moment, or offer you genuine advice or whatever like that. And I'm not saying, like, I mean, people, earn a living and all the rest kind of thing, but I think it's just so important. I think with social media, there's a lot of bait and switch. So they're bringing you in the door for this, but then suddenly it's this and that. And, I think be mindful of who you trust to be able to walk life's journeys with, whether that's business journey, relationships journey, friendship journey, faith journey, all of those kinds of things in all areas. I think it's so, so important.
Yeah, because it is unfortunate that now so much of what you see is not what you get.
No,
and social media,
it's like,
yeah. And it is possible now that AI can actually sound like a real person.
Totally.
Like, I know, like, Jeff uses AI quite a bit. That's his jam.
Totally.
But he has trained it so that it knows how he communicates. It knows how he puts things, how he phrases things. So that then what he's putting out there is his voice, and it's not just
absolutely
AI gobbledygook. But
there's so much good stuff, but it's also being aware of the dark side of that. I think that's the thing.
Because so much of it, it's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good. It can be used for great constructive purposes.
Yeah.
But it can also be anything that you can use to build something, you can use to knock it down too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and we need to remember that building each other up is what we should be focusing on, not tearing each other down. And sometimes when somebody is just seeing the highlight reel of someone else's life, they don't know what's gone on behind. And then there's also, like, even just this last week, I saw some posts that Dr. Jeremy Colson put up about stuff that's going on the internet and really bad behavior that needs to be called out. And it's like, what has happened that has led to that? And I will admit that's a conversation I'd love to have on another episode of that. But some of what I got out of that was, one line he said was, we're drowning and no one's putting up a safety fence.
Yeah.
So we need to put up the safety fence.
That's why the things I talked about, the tools, doing the learning, the peer groups, all of those things are all so important.
They're
because
really important.
Technology is fantastic. I do love it. We use it a lot in business and that as well. But there's still the human element that is so, so important. And so when you look at some of the things, like there's some programs on at the moment, kind of thing that are talking about, young children being, sucked into, the web and all of these kinds of things. The isolation that comes from some of that. That's why it is vital that you've got peer group around you that will call you on that, that will be there to support you, that will be able to kind of, be that hand down when you need a hand up, and that too. So all of those things are vital. And I think that, and again, it's like one of my first points that I made, like it's around where, having been around the block a few times, you kind of, you learn that, absolutely there are so many things that have changed over time. I remember when mobile phones were just attached to cars. Right? And that, or it was a brick and whatever like that kind of thing. Yes, the eyes, that's how old I am. But like, I mean, they're the things kind of thing. And has it gone? And now we've got a full-fledged computer, in our pockets or whatever like that. And there's so many advantages to it, but it also has changed, like, how hard it is to switch off. How do we, we're bombarded the whole time if you allow it, if you allow that to be the thing that actually is. So technology, all of that is brilliant, but it's also, I think, equipping humans. I think we need to be equipping humans to be humans, to have human interactions, to have human relationships, to have, time when you're not attached. Because, from a mental perspective and a physical perspective, that's not useful for us as we go forward. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see this next generation as they come through, what that actually all looks like. So yeah, there's so much. And the wisdom of age, I think, gives us a different perspective on some of these things.
Yeah. You are very good at seeing potential in people and seeing what they could be capable of. And you have a way of making people feel seen and safe to, I know I've had times where I've been able to just, like, when I am in a spot where I just need to go blah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're like, that you have actually been that safe space for me to do that. So where does that come from for you? How do you hold that space for people, and how can we all do that a little bit better? Because with the world being as crazy busy as it is really easy not to see the things that are straight in front of us, to not notice when somebody's
absolutely.
struggling.
I will be the first to admit there are times when I get so busy being busy that I also, I lose that opportunity to be able to kind of see, okay, where that is. I do love the opportunity when I can, when I get to be able to be with somebody, and, you're just in that moment and you're able to be present. So I think it's also like, how do you do it? It is about consciously, being intentional around having, giving the person in front of you 100% of your attention. We've got our Juice Plus standards that we have internally here, and I love it's a document, but it's a document we focus on every single week, and we take one of them kind of thing. And so they're around our how is it that we want to show up as people. And so one of them is actually, the person in front of me gets 100% of my attention, whether that's in person, phone, email, online, messenger, and any other online communication space. Be present. Be willing to acknowledge you have heard the person. And so it's actually kind of living those kinds of things out, is just looking at how can you do that. And as I said, I'm the first to admit I do not do this perfectly all of the time at all. But it's intentional about where I can remind myself, okay, be present. Because again, distractions. There's computers. How many tabs have we got open? There's the phone, there's the iPad, there's the laptop, there's all of those kinds of things. How can we actually show up? And the other thing too is that I truly believe that it is part of my purpose. If my purpose is, to help people to live a life on purpose for a purpose, well, I kind of need to know what that looks like. And the only way that you know that what that looks like is being present to somebody and seeing the potential. Look, what is the God-given potential within that person? And then try to unlock. Now, it's not my responsibility for them to live it out. It's my responsibility to shine a light on it. It's their responsibility to live it out. And we see many people who die with their potential still intact because they never stepped into that, or they never took the time. But if I have an opportunity to be able to shine a light on something for someone that I see in someone, then I actually believe it's my responsibility to do it, because that's the purpose that has been laying on my soul. So that's probably what keeps me intentional about wanting to be able to do that, is being able to, and then just leaning in. I just kind of, a lot of the time it's about what's channeled through me, not from me. And that it's been open to that as well. It's been open to that faith journey that I'm on, that, there'll be sometimes I'll kind of go, oh, that was really good. Where'd that come from? All righty. Thanks for that. And I will, before I go into each interaction, before I stand on stage to talk or whatever it might be, I just kind of go, okay, you know what? Because I get nervous and whatever like that. And then I kind of go, okay, alrighty. It doesn't have to be on my strength. It's on his strength. So if something is channeled through me, I just kind of go, awesome, brilliant. So yeah, so that's it. But I think if I could give anybody a word, it's be intentional in all of your actions. Be intentional about how you show up in whatever that might be. And that be intentional about it. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do.
And I love hearing that even Celine Egan gets nervous in front of speaking
totally.
in front of big audiences.
I think the day that you're not nervous means it doesn't matter. That's my honestly, that's my truth around that. It really is. I am nervous because it matters to me. It matters to me that, even coming on here, like, there's that nervous moment going, okay, again, oftentimes, you can have those not good enough stories. Oh, what have I got to offer? Or what have I got this? Or what have I got? And you just kind of go, I'm just going to trust this moment that there's going to be something that's going to be able to be delivered to one person. That's it. One person. So it doesn't matter whether I'm standing on a stage in front of thousands. I'm only talking to one person, because gosh, if we get to, so today, if there's one person out there that actually hears something and goes, oh my goodness, that's it. Okay. It's not just about that one person. When that one person's life changes, everybody that they interact with changes. So my visualization always is, I'm about to drop a pebble into the water, and what's the ripple effect from just one person? If there happens to be more than that, brilliant. But I'm just speaking to one. And so that's it. So if it's you today, whoever's listening, and it's just that, just think that by you embracing what it is that you've heard, you've kind of go, oh, that's a really good idea. Now, if you don't do anything with it, it's not a great idea. Okay, it might have been a good idea, but you have nothing there. But if you take action, if you apply attitude, commitment, and effort, and you do it, I can honestly tell you that what you will have created is an ongoing ripple. And that's pretty awesome. So can you imagine if all of us decided that we're going to create a ripple, we're going to put the effort in, and we're going to create that ripple? Oh, wow. A tsunami of impact. And that's what we're about. That's, for me, it's all about how can I add impact in any way that it happens. So, yeah.
And what amazing things happen when we do just lean into our gifts, whatever they happen to be,
Yep.
and share them with the world.
Totally.
And that's part of why I started the podcast, was I'd heard so many people saying similar things, or that they'd been through similar experiences. So,
Yep.
for example, you and I have both lost babies.
Yep.
So the rates now are 1 in 4 pregnancies
Totally.
have a story like Neve's story.
Yep.
And that is a lot of people who've been through an experience like that changes you. It can't help but.
Yeah.
Cancer rates are 1 in 2. So odds are, if you haven't had cancer yourself, you've cared for somebody who has, and that has changed you as well. But it's those things that we don't talk about. You could be in a room full of women who have been through that experience, but you would never know.
No, I think it's getting slowly better. I think this younger generation are much more open. I watched as, Cara navigated this, and, some of the amazing organizations and everything. There was nothing. Back when, when I went through that, you did not talk about it. You did not talk about it at all. So I do believe there's still a long way to go. I think there's still a long way to go, and there's, there are big conversations to be had. However, I was just blown away by the care and the just the beautiful organizations that have been founded, and the majority of them have been founded out of loss. And so that is that other part of it, then going, okay, yeah, what does that look like? It's about, again, everything happens for a reason. These organizations are impacting people, but they were first founded generally, for most of the ones that we dealt with, out of a story of loss. But now they're being able to turn that loss into love and being able to pay that forward. So it is beautiful, but it is a conversation that continues to needs to be discussed, most definitely. Support given around it, all of that, postnatal depression, all of those things that have
Mental
been,
health.
all of that. Taboo kind of thing, having those
Yeah.
conversations, walking these journeys, fertility journeys, walking these journeys with people. We had a team member who was going through that journey, and they were just blown away by, I suppose, the support that we were giving them, which is just natural for us because, like, we're mums, and there's a lot of mums in here and all the rest kind of thing. But it was, she was in tears one day, genuinely thanking us. And the reason being was that it wasn't the same. This is a long journey, but it hadn't been the same in previous employments, in previous places kind of thing, not having those understandings. So I think we need to be open to conversations to go, how can we all work together to actually provide support and care for people? And at the same time, as a business owner, I also get too, this is a commercial side of things. But what I know to be true, and one of my early mentors shared it with me, and it was out of Build to Last, I think it was out of, build the people, and the people will build the business.
Yep.
Take
care of your people, they take care of your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and an old one that we've had in this whole thing is contact equals care, care equals keep. When people know that you actually care, you'll keep them, that they'll be around because, you genuinely, and people know if you're faking that. If you're just kind of doing it because, it's being authentically you. So be authentic with intention. I think that's probably what I'd say there.
There's a takeaway of wisdom for you. So around here, I'm big on talking about stuff that doesn't generally get talked about, and we've done it a little bit, but what do you think are some of the conversations that we're not having that we really should be?
Look, I think we're living in a world that's hurting. So, I think there's so many conversations that probably we just need to be, I think one of the first things that we need to be able to do is to see everybody as their, your sister or brother in Christ. And that's whether you've got a faith or not, whatever that might look like for you. Replace Christ with whatever it is. But seeing everybody as your sister and brother, we're all humans, we're all humanity. And yet people don't, are not thinking right now at the moment about, just decimating people kind of thing. It's not. And whether that is physically through war, which there's a lot of that happening, or emotionally through online bullying and how people are showing up. I mean, seriously, how people talk to one another sometimes online, keyboard warriors, or even some of our politicians, to be honest, how they talk and treat one another. I mean, these are the guys who are supposed to be setting an example, or, men and women for us as generations. So, one of the things I actually think that we don't talk about is common sense and good manners. Now, I'm definitely sounding old now. I know, I can hear it, the cringing already. Oh my goodness me, she's going back to the 60s. Well, it wasn't too bad. 1965 was a good year. It was the year I was born. But seriously though, I look at some of the conversations and how people show up online, or how they show up with one another, or how, our world at the moment is just wanting to undermine, and different political people are, want to undermine people and all the rest kind of thing. And I know that it's, taboo. Don't talk faith or politics. But I'm not even talking about that. No matter what your beliefs are, no matter what side of the party's lines that you sit on, or anything at all like that, what I would love people to start talking about is what's actual proper common sense. How should we be showing up for one another? What is the right thing to do? What is the next right thing to do? Like that common sense, and that, seeing one another as brothers and sisters. You know, it's one of the things I love about network marketing, because, you know, for most network marketing companies, you can build an organization that spans countries. Like, so our Juice Plus team, you know, can build in 26 countries. Well, there's 26 countries that sometimes some of them could be in war with one another. You wouldn't want to kill your downline. Do you know, like, do you know
There's a way to solve the problems.
Do you know, like, I mean, it's kind of like, seriously, like, I mean, you're all friends, and then suddenly, because somebody has a different opinion on it, we saw this in the world, you know, when we had to have this pregnant pause, and people and families were torn apart because they had a different opinion on something. And, you know, when did it become wrong to have a different opinion? That was, you know, that's kind of, you know, where I go with that. And I just kind of go, you know, you might not always have to agree with somebody. That's okay. But it doesn't mean that you need to ostracize people. And so I think that common sense has gone by the wayside, and good manners has gone by the wayside in a lot of cases. I really do. And it's something that we've been, you know, so diligent, and so still to this day, our kids are all grown up and all the rest kind of thing, but they still know, gosh, like, you know, if I walk through the door, Mick will always hold the door open for me. And I can hear now the women's liberals kind of going, oh, no, you can hold, I can hold my own door. Absolutely can. But I also have a man
But it's
who
kind
loves
of nice
me.
when,
He loves me, and he wants to honor me in that moment. And kind of, he will do that. If we're walking down the street, even on our morning walks at 5 o'clock in the morning, no one can see, he will always put me to the inside. Now, people are probably laughing at it, but it's not about that act. It's not about that specific thing. It's about the fact that he cares enough and wants to just do that. And it would be anybody who was going through, he would step aside to let them in or whatever like that. So it's just, I just think how people speak to one another, how, just how people show up, and some of these kind of conversations are happening at the moment. I feel like common sense and good manners has gone to the things. So they might be archaic ideas, kind of, you know, but to me, I just feel that it's so important. And I think we will get to a point where it will come back to bite us. I think it will, that if we don't, you know, make a stand for some of those things, I think that it could actually have a negative, a very detrimental effect down the line. So, you know,
I agree.
all of us, it just takes each of us to really be super, super profoundly kind of intentional. Again, there's that word coming back, but intentional about how we show up. How can we respect others? How can we respect people's opinions, agree to disagree if we need to, but do it from a loving perspective, and not have to. And also, too, I would call out to politicians worldwide, no matter what party you're in, grow up. You know, actually look at how we can, how can we do better? How can we do better for our people, for our planet, for all of our nations? How can we do better in that? So, but anyhow, I could get on a little bit of a soapbox, but I won't.
Oh, I'd be happy to let you, because I agree with you. And if the ideas of kindness, compassion, manners, and just all around being a good person, regardless of what your beliefs are, of doing the right thing just because it's the right thing,
Yeah.
and showing love and kindness to each other. If those are old-fashioned, archaic ideas, can I go back there, please?
Yes.
Now,
I know.
okay. I am the mother of boys,
Yes.
and a big thing for me, and you've seen it. One of the nicest things somebody's ever said to me was, what beautiful manners my children have. Now, I will admit, at home they're not always as well behaved as they are in public, but that's okay.
That's okay.
But my thing was, yes, and that is because they will have good manners if it kills me.
Yeah.
Because kindness doesn't cost anything.
No.
But it's always, and we've made a rule with them when they do get online, but it's just a general life rule anyway.
Yes.
But for online stuff, if you wouldn't want your grandmother to read it, don't put it out there.
We used to say exactly the same thing, and we're going, oh, but it's the truth. Absolutely, we used to say exactly the same thing. If if you don't
Yep.
want Granny to see it and read it, then don't put it
Don't
on
say
there.
it. Yep.
Don't say it. No.
And if you wouldn't walk right up to that person and say exactly that same thing to them, then don't say it
Totally.
from behind a keyboard.
Yeah, absolutely. So important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, it all
Yeah.
comes back down to just common sense.
Yeah.
Common sense, imagine, stop thinking of these people that are there unknowns. They're people who are somebody's son, daughter, wife, mother, brother, sister, whatever kind of thing. They're real people. And so we just need to, treat them with respect.
Yes. And yeah, it doesn't take much to treat people with respect and kindness. And I know another thing for me as mother of boys, because unfortunately in this world, men and women do see things differently. Like your lovely husband puts you to the inside automatically without even thinking. Now, I would say, and I'm only saying because I do it, if you're by yourself and you've parked your car somewhere, I would say it's probably under a street light
Totally.
or within a direct line of sight of where you're going. So no one's going to be able to jump out and surprise you. If you're walking, chances are, and you've got your hand in your pocket, chances are your keys are laced through your fingers. Now, we think of that, but I guarantee our husbands don't because they've not had to. And as the mum of boys, what I want to do is raise my boys so that the women around them don't have to think like that.
Yeah.
And my hope is that by doing that, that then creates that ripple that eventually no woman's going to have to think that way. We're not going to have to be super aware of everything that's going on around us just to keep ourselves safe, because we will be able to trust that we are safe.
Absolutely. But I really do think, again, it's not, and I totally respect what you're saying there, but it's also just not a gender thing.
No,
Because,
it's not. It's a people thing.
I know that I've seen it before where a young man has tried to do the right thing and they've been brushed aside by a woman going, oh, I can do it. And so straight away then you're actually basically saying to that man, well, I don't need your protection, or I don't need you to so we've got jobs to do on both sides of that argument.
Definitely.
I agree with you totally. I mean, we've raised our boys and we're very blessed to have, amazing young men.
They are gentlemen.
And that, and so, from that perspective, but I also know too that it's on both sides. It needs to, we need to allow, we need to allow for men to actually be in a space that they can actually be men. They can be the protectors, because if they're not the protectors, it can lead to the other side of things there, where they become then, the aggressor. So I think, I think there's arguments, or there's work, not arguments, there's work to be done on both sides of that conversation, but it's definitely a conversation that's worth, continuing in our societies.
That we all need to know who we are and treat each other with kindness and compassion and understanding.
Yeah.
And for everyone to know, I'm struggling to find words, and that's not usual for me.
Just be intentional kindness, intentional love. That's all it is. That's what it's about.
To focus on those things that make us the same, that we are all just people doing the best we can with what we have, and focus that we are so much more similar than we are different. There is so much more that connects us than there is that divides us. And maybe if we focused on that, we might see a little less disconnection, a little less confusion of how to treat people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Each of us just needs to take responsibility. I talk, another tool that I've got is the responsibility game, playing above or below
Yep.
the line. So above the
It
line,
all.
taking 100% responsibility, or blame, shame, and justify. So, it's again, we can either play and blame, shame, and justify, and it's so easy to justify anything or blame other people or shame ourselves or whatever like that, or we can take responsibility for how we show up. So, I would love to kind of, leave our audience today with with a challenge to go, okay, how can you take personal responsibility to intentionally show up with love and compassion for your fellow person? If we just do that, everything else will happen. And when we notice ourselves going into blame, shame, and justify, because we are human, take a breath and just ask yourself, how in this moment can I take responsibility for whatever it is that's going on? How in this moment can I move away from blame, shame, or justify? Just this moment. And the more you do that, life is made up of a series of moments. So the more moments you take responsibility for, the better your life and those around you will be. So intentionally looking at how you can take personal responsibility would be my challenge to each of you today.
I am so glad you were here today.
Honored to be
There
here.
has been there has been so many great gems of wisdom. We've talked about faith, we've talked about grief, about leading with your heart, and you've issued a nice little challenge. So for everyone listening, how about you take her up on her challenge and maybe let us know about it?
Love to.
And if this episode resonated with you, share it. You never know. Someone you know might need to hear the reminder that healing, hope, and connection are just a conversation away, and that it's about how we show up, how we intentionally be what we want to see in the world. If you'd like to connect with Celine and learn more about her work, or even just to say hi, you'll find links in the show notes. Unless you'd like to tell us how the best way to get hold of you is.
Anyway, so I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on any of those platforms. Celine Egan. So you'll find me and that. So feel free to reach out. And I'd love for you to tell me, if there was anything in here that resonated with you, or if you took up the challenge, please do reach out. I'd love to hear.
Yes. It's a great challenge to remember you can pick up your ownership, accountability, responsibility. Or you can stay in your bed making blame, excuses, and denials, or blame, shame, and justifying other people. So it's a great challenge, and I will be remembering to do it. It's a game we do play around here of are you lying in your bed or are you picking up your oar?
Yeah, awesome.
So,
Well done.
yeah. So that's what we try to do. So, as always for the show, if you've resonated with it, share it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, send me messages on socials. You can let me know if you're taking Celine up on her challenge, or things that resonated with you, or stuff that you'd like to talk about more. Because I'm always up for finding new people to talk to and new conversations to have, because I think healing happens in those conversations, and talking about things and connecting with others, and finding those spaces where we can find common ground between differing ideas and opinions is where we're going to see change. So until next time, please take care of yourself, take care of each other. Remember, you are never alone, and your stories matter. So please keep sharing them.
Awesome.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Take care. God bless.